Pyramids are very fascinating. Very, very fascinating architecture. They've always fascinated me. And, you hear conspiracy theories about that they're built up with like ancient civilizations. Maybe the Atlanteans handed the Egyptians specific technology, or the Anunnakis or alien built the pyramids. That may be true. That may be false. But I think we have a more honest answer here on board, given throughout different architecture that's built throughout history, which I'll explain. All right. So how old is the pyramid? First of all, the pyramid is 4,500 years old, and it's still standing like how it was back then. Compared to today, we have a 40-year-old building and it's old and replaced. It's gone. It doesn't have its purpose. Doesn't have an identity to it. Okay. So how did they build the pyramids? Right. Everyone saw it in their minds. They had bigger brains back then. Maybe not literally, but they had the same vision. It was a group soul consciousness that they all worked towards. They were more what's called clairvoyant, which means they thought clearer. They had that vision that everyone saw. They all worked towards it. It was like a divine vision. Okay. And how they started building the pyramids was from the inside out, literally from the inside out. And they had no blueprint, no machine, no map, no pen and paper to map it out. They just all built it together just through their vision. Okay. And it was a big, big group project. It took 20 years to build, and thousands and thousands of people. How did this happen? How does this work? Empathy with imagination is the goal they had, which was the achievement, which why they have the pyramid, how they build the pyramid overall. Okay. And what we are taught in school overall about these pyramids is that they built it, as a tomb for the pharaoh, and that is very, very disrespectful to the Egyptian people, because that's not what it actually was for. The pharaoh wanted what's best for the people, a gift for the people. Okay. So he even participated in his group social project. He wanted this for the people. He wanted legacy. They built it as a temple for the people. Okay. It was like a modern day church, temple, a holy place. That's what it was meant for. So if you go throughout history, you'll see a lot of temples built. You can even take a plane right now, take a flight anywhere, go to Germany. They have a lot of cathedrals there, and you can see the architecture. Everything is done so neatly, so carefully, because they had that divine conscious. It was like people are religious, right? So when they explain something, it's usually through music, through architecture. They built it because it's God to them. They want to bring heaven to earth. That's their goal. Okay. Why did they do it? It had like a religious purpose to it, bringing heaven to earth, which I just explained. And they had that powerful vision, which we lack today. Back then, they didn't have phones, didn't have blueprints, didn't have any of that. It was just a powerful vision that everyone saw together. It was purpose. When you have something purposeful in life, you don't think, you just do it and it works. They all saw the same picture in their minds, and they all were involved in what I call a group soul consciousness. Everyone had one goal. Everyone. They all worked to build this massive pyramid because they knew it would be legacy to them. And what we work on today, this is for motivation, money, for a normal job. Top-down management, which is, you do this, you do that. Back then, they didn't do that. They just all worked together as one vision, one consciousness. Disconnected work and short-term thinking. That's how we think today, because we don't really care about our job. It's kind of crappy, all we really care about is just clock in and clock out. Back then, it wasn't like that. They were working towards God, towards building the temple for themselves. Had purpose, meaning to it. a different type of consciousness, a different type of thinking they had back then, which is extinct today due to technology and other distractions that we have today. Okay. And this is what the main result was from the two. Okay. So you have the pyramids, you have specific architecture, cathedrals in Germany, specific temples in ancient Turkey. They're built to last generations. As for today, these modern buildings today, these skyscrapers are just built to be used and replaced. Maybe they're a couple years old, maybe 50, 40, 60 years old, but they're not thousands of years old, and they definitely don't have the same purpose that they were built for back then. Okay? The difference is that back then they had the vision, unity, and sacrifice to build the legacy. We have better tools today, but we don't have the vision. We lack the mental clarity, the vision, the clairvoyance compared to what they had back then. And we think that they were dumber back then and we're smarter. No, it's the complete opposite. Complete opposite. We're actually dumber now compared to how they were back then. 100%. Okay. And we have better technology that can enhance our speed, and we can work in more comfortable environments rather than working in Egypt and, in the sun and the sand. So we build everything for convenience. As for back then, they built it for purpose, for meaning, for church, for holiness, for bringing heaven to earth. They were working towards God. It was one vision, one goal, one purpose. All right. So with this, you can take this into anywhere in life. Yeah. Anything you do with purpose. Find your passion, which is hard, but back then it was like a group thing and they all did something together to move towards that legacy. We lack that today because everyone is solo. Everyone is doing their own thing. All right. So I'll leave it with that. Let me know what you guys think, and maybe this can teach you something about how the mind works, how powerful the mind is. All right. I'll see you guys soon.